Лена, привет. Oh, hi, Elena. Waiting for Andrew. Oh, I don't hear you. Не слышно.
And now?
Oh, yeah. So that's good. So congratulations. We're opening the Metaverse Fashion Week. Yeah. So
And on my side as
yeah.
well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Andrew just said that he is coming. Yeah. So he asked me if we should have it for 1 hour. I said as you wish. So don't be shy. Yeah. So feel free to ask anything.
Okay.
And I sent him your main data, I mean ARR, like how much you want to raise and so on. Yeah, so I just mentioned it. Because as I understand, like your numbers fit what he does.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Yeah. Waiting for him. Как там у вас погодка? Let me crank on this now. Okay, this is 60 minutes shorter. How long is the session? Maybe it's short.
Hello.
Yeah. Hi, Andrew.
Let me check my audio.
Oh, I like your background.
I just got it. Thank you. So, how long is this session?
So let's decide. I think that like 30 minutes is more than okay. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
But if the conversation becomes like emotionally very interesting, very cool, so why not longer? It depends upon us. Yes. So
Okay. You're the boss.
yeah. So thank you so much, dear Andrew. Yeah. So with you, with this opening ceremony of our Metaverse Fashion Week 2024, we have not just the representative of venture capital from Silicon Valley, not just from Silicon Valley, but from American capital, but one of the, sorry for me saying that, but one of the greatest minds in the venture capital landscape, yeah, of US now. So we made a short review of your book, of your great book, on our magazine, and you know the reaction is great. So everyone from fashion industry, so potential designers who want to become startuppers one day, yeah, so they ask a lot of questions and they ask some connections and some guidance. So we answer that. Sorry for that. There is no consultancy, Andrew, but Andrew can open all the Metaverse Fashion Week. So we have two roles having you, yeah, like a venture capitalist on one hand, and then the man, the professor, the author who can lead like this transformation of traditional fashion industry into more tech oriented, yeah, and venture capital oriented, yeah. So we invited Yelena Volkova. I want to introduce her. Yeah, so Yelena is going to assist us at least at this Q&A session. Yes, so maybe we can ask you questions later. I know that your main topic is corporate venture capital. Yeah, so like investment here. And as for the very beginning, I can just say that let's see the news of today. Yeah, the Bitcoin is 94.200. So happy us. Fashion industry is going down and down. So it's there are different factors, but our main point is that it should be redefined. I mean, traditional fashion industry, it's huge one, as everyone discusses. It's one of the biggest industries in the world in terms of revenues, yeah. But in terms of venture capital or investment, it's not the most successful industry as for now. And U.S. economy is growing up, as we understand, but we're going to ask you, Andrew, yeah. And we hope that the new wave of investment is coming for next year and potentially to fashion industry as well. Yeah. But the main point is knowledge. Yeah, and knowledge is you, dear Andrew. So please open this Metaverse Fashion Week with its smart side. I mean, Smart Fashion Summit. Yeah, and we are happy to have you. We are happy to have Andrew Romans, the co-founder of 7BC Venture Capital Fund. Yeah, so and please, Andrew, we're like your voice is very
Well,
important.
Kazbek, thank you for having me, Elena. Nice to meet you. So I guess I'll talk a little bit about industry-wise. I'm not sure if these numbers are totally accurate, but it seems like 80% of the capital in the fashion or luxury fashion world seems to be controlled by LVMH and two other large groups. So you kind of seem to have a situation of highly concentrated control of an industry that theoretically touches every human and even some fancy dogs that are wearing fashion, right? Such a large industry. I think in the world of entrepreneurship and sometimes the entrepreneurship world supported by VC, you have a classic model that there is like one sleeping incumbent that dominates an industry, and that could be medical devices, it could be the yellow pages, it could be anything. And then some startups that are tech enabled or just, hardworking gladiators, a very small group can take a bite out of that market that's dominated by this one big, industry sleepy giant. And then they get the attention of some other monolithic large corporate that wants to enter that market. And the other guy buys the little startup and with all of their power and resources starts hammering away market share from a sleepy incumbent. You kind of had like, I don't know, there's a million examples in like the medical device industry and stuff, but there's also things like you have Travelocity and then Kayak comes along, you know? So I think just seeing this 80% in the hands of three groups sounds like there's a big business opportunity there for, and I would also say in a world of like LLMs and most people now know what Chat GPT is, that you can build a startup very efficiently right now with very little money. And it used to be on the consumer side, which would certainly affect the fashion industry. For any consumer, startup, you tended to say, all right, we need X number of dollars to get it through seed product, Series A, Series B. But if we really want to build a consumer brand, you're going to have this like $60 million Series C round. I think with the advent of social networking and to some extent just experimenting with how much do I have to spend on advertising and whether it's earned or paid advertising to close a customer, and what is my profit margin on that, and what is my payback period, that this basic ability to do that on the internet and with social networking has lowered the capital requirements for a consumer business. So therefore, some of these fashion industries. And then of course, there's all this B2B supply chain, opportunities. But as Kozbek mentioned, I've written a number of books. My second book is called Masters of Corporate Venture Capital, or CVC. And in that book, I had case studies of 50 CVCs, corporate venture capital business units, such as Intel Capital, Microsoft Ventures, now M12, Salesforce Ventures. And it used to be that kind of Intel, Microsoft are in the technology world. So they need to be in CVC, venture capital, and dealing with startups to make sure that Moore's law, of improving their business continues. I think we had a bit of an epiphany maybe 10 or 20 years ago that every single business is a technology business. So if you're one of the French largest 40 companies, the CAC 40, you cannot say, "Oh, I'm in a low-tech business. So I'm not like Microsoft. I don't need M12 Ventures, a CVC. I'm not Intel Capital. I'm not trying to continue Moore's law. I don't need that." Well, in fact, you do. And so I think every single large corporation needs to basically understand that they have a choice. They can be a beneficiary of technological change. And we can argue that there's radical technological change happening everywhere on how business is done and how consumers are behaving, and everything on the B2B supply chain that is the fashion world. And then, or they could be a victim of it. So if a large business like LVMH figures out how to embrace technology, they will be the winner, like a Walmart if they're slow to adopt technology, they may in fact be a big Goliath loser and a victim of technological change. Amazon, came out of nowhere and destroyed many a business. And you could argue so did Walmart. And they really achieved this through technology. So the question is, how can large corporations interact with startups and technology? And how can the startups interact with the large corporations? So in that second book of mine, Masters of Corporate Venture Capital, we basically I interviewed like over 400 CVC individuals and asked them, why does Verizon do this? Why does Telefonica do this? Why does Campbell Soup do this? Why does John Deere do this? And they're basically have different reasons, but some are kind of offensive and some are defensive. But I think at the end of the day, we don't have too much time to go deep into this, is to say, you probably want to have a corporate venture capital strategy where you're investing into venture capital funds that are investing and interacting with the startups. And those VCs can show you opportunities that they believe are relevant to your core business or secondary businesses or adjacent opportunities. And sometimes you want to make sure you increase the sales and lower the cost of your core business. But sometimes you want to be a little bit like Jeff Bezos and go from selling books and CDs to selling women's shoes and jeans and all kinds of things in Hollywood and hyper data scaling data centers. And Bezos is an example that he naturally was diversifying his business, running almost venture experiments with strong M&A. A sleepy 200-year-old Japanese corporate or conglomerate may not necessarily have the culture of Jeff Bezos. If they invest in a bunch of VCs around the world, and then they get introduced to these startups, and then if they start doing business with a company and they're going to increase the sales of that company, maybe they should invest and buy 10% of that business. And then next to CVC is Corp Dev, or the M&A team, corporate development, where I think we need a mindset shift in the fashion industry to drive acquisitions, which is great for startups to be able to get funded by VCs who are now interested in their sector because they have a limited partner investor that invested in their fund, asking to see the innovation happening in the fashion world, and all of this, surrounding industries. And then they can get partnerships with a large corporation, which could mean distribution or a customer driving revenue. And then ultimately, there is a buyer to buy and acquire that business. And then, of course, there can be, for a really strong business that's high growth and profitable, to list on a stock exchange and go the IPO route and maybe take a bite out of this 80% that's controlled by three, major groups. I think it was maybe 15 to 20 years ago. I remember our fund one was 2014, 2013. There was a lot of people saying the next 5 years, we expect to see more change in shopping, in how shopping is done, than we've seen in the last 50 years. And I would argue, having kind of watched that play out, that has not happened. So, Kazbek tells me that there are 50,000 designers and startups and this, growing population of people innovating in the fashion industry. But I would argue that it has somehow not happened. So that prediction of the next 5 years, more change than the last 50, I'm not sure I've really seen that happen. There's certainly a lot of startups, in the sector, but I don't know. I guess those are a few thoughts to get us going. Maybe I pass it back to you, Kazbek and Elena. I would say that the capital requirements to create a startup today it's possible that they're lower than they've ever been. You can, get a domain for your website and your email. You can host it. You can use LLMs. You can use OpenAI. You can use Claude. You can use all these different technologies. There's outsourcing. You don't necessarily need to be in Silicon Valley and have all your engineers live in expensive San Francisco or Palo Alto. That, there's a million reasons why it could be much cheaper. So I would encourage people that understand their industry to find opportunities to generate revenues or lower costs for their customers. Um, Building brands in fashion is not typically something technology VCs are interested in, but there's possibly opportunities for that as well. And if you see three lazy incumbents, when you get that big, it's hard not to be lazy. You don't want to rock the boat if you're just generating cash like crazy. So new ideas don't necessarily bubble up. So it really falls onto the shoulders of the entrepreneurs and their investors, to do that.
Yeah,
Cosmic, I think you also said, I think you want to do like a book giveaway or something that, you're happy to, kind of give
yes,
away
that's what we
copies of
want.
my latest book. Yeah,
So
the latest book, Masters
I
of
have
Raising. Oh,
the
okay.
book. It's very precious. It's signed by you, yeah. And the idea is the team proposes, yeah, to collect all the questions from the participants of all the Metaverse Fashion Week, and at the end of it, yeah, if you dare us, we can make it a gift for the smartest person who took part in the Fashion Week. Okay, so and we'll send you the questions. We'll say, okay, this question is good, or that was even better. Okay, like that. Is it okay? Because
Yeah, of
this
course it is. Of course it is.
it's
And,
very important book. Yeah, so it's everyone should read this book at least 3 times. That's my word. Yeah.
well, thank you very much. I mean, if you're going to raise venture capital funding, even angel funding, corporate venture capital funding, there is a chapter on that, although I've written a whole book on that one topic. It might save you some time and, even save you from making some irreversible decisions that, you can't recover from.
Right.
But and then it gets into M&A and growing your business and exiting. It's also good if you're making direct investments into startups or VC funds, or you are raising a venture capital fund, or you are a venture capitalist. That's generally the audience, for the book.
Great. Thank you so much. So, and like maybe we could ask you some questions here from the industry. Maybe these questions could sound a little bit naive, yeah, like from coming from fashion designers, but they still want to become startups. Yeah. When I say that 50,000 of younger designers, yeah, they exist on the market, I don't mean that they are already startups. No, but they feel a little bit jealous. Yeah. So that fashion industry as a whole has more revenues. Yeah, their revenue stream in fashion is even bigger than in IT and than with tech companies somehow, because everyone still has like socks or pants or whatever, t-shirts, and not everyone wears has the iPhones or iPads and so on. So, but venture capital layer, the infrastructure of investment into fashion, so is maybe 30 years behind. Yes, and we think it's just our idea, but the time has come using the technology, what we call smart fashion, yeah, to give an additional push to them. And the main problem isn't lack of money, isn't even lack of money. It's lack of knowledge and the fluent language of venture capital investment of all the procedures. Yes, so that's why we ask you, not just you, and that's why we push and promote your excellent book, your masterpiece. Yeah, but can you give the first, like, very practical advices to a young designer who wants to become a startup? Yeah, so coming from creative side of the business to more maybe sober financial world of investments, technology, and so on, with financial side of it.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, I think the goal of any startup or any business should be to uh, become a profitable business that has positive unit economics. So you are in a perfect world. If you think of a discounted cash flow analysis, which is largely used to value a company, they're largely looking at what are the revenues of the company and are they growing? And so what is the growth rate, the G that goes into a discounted cash flow model? And what are the top line revenues and what are the bottom line net income profit? And what are the profit margins? I think that from a classic Silicon Valley VC perspective, a company manufacturing, jeans, like blue jeans, denim, clothing, fashion, whatever, it's often understood to be low growth, high margin, potentially even capital intensive to get going. I think that you could argue that the margins are insanely high when you're building a brand, but building a brand can be expensive. So for most startups, you tend to say, if you understand your industry and you see an opportunity to lower the expenses for a customer or increase their revenue, you might be onto a business. And I would expect that the entrepreneurs that create those companies are people that have grown up working in that industry, and they understand, how things are currently done and how they could be done better. So like a primary investment thesis for 7BC Venture Capital, our firm, is to identify, invest, and support startups that are automating human workflows and leveraging data sets. So you basically say, how are things done today in the real world? And it's very, one human does this work, and then another human does this work, and another human does that work, and how they pass things along to each other in an overall industry process, and write software that can do this in an automated manner. And then leverage data and bring the data back into the software. So it's kind of a decision tree. And you end up with data-driven software. So, you might be able to identify which email addresses were just unsubscribing whenever they received an email about some sort of fashion thing, which emails were clicking through and responding and even ended up making a purchase, and how to enable customers to market their fashion or clothing or whatever this is to the customers that are going to be the most responsive. So if you had a $5,000 monthly budget for marketing, how can you make that generate, $10,000 of profit? And so just on retained earnings profit, you're able to plow the profit back into it and send out more emails or do more marketing. So basically provide a service or product or service offering to a customer that is valuable to them, that they get a return on investment for what they're paying for it. One way that I think about this is sometimes you could automate the job using software to automate the job of one person. So, for example, you might pay an accountant to do your personal tax return every year in whatever country. And then some sort of TurboTax product enables you to enter your information, and it does it. And you're essentially selling software at a lower price than what you would have to pay one human as an accountant to do this one time a year for you. Or it is an employee of yours. You no longer need to pay this human because the software is doing it, and you pay the startup less money than you'd have to pay that one human as an employee. Then you can say, within the fashion world, are there opportunities that take 15 people to run the newsletter or do some sort of, workflow? And is there a startup that can do the job of those 15 people for, better than the humans? It's grabbing data, it's doing better than the humans, and you no longer need to pay those 15 people, or you can free them up to provide some other function within your company. And then the one that is the most interesting to me is finding startups that can do work that would have required like 1,500 people to look all over the planet and locate some sort of extract information out of every, contract. Maybe there's a contract that is between the stores that are selling the clothing and the manufacturers or the distributors, and it would take 1,500 people to read every contract and extract are they paying for this in advance? Are they paying net 30 after you deliver the boxes of, clothing? Or are they paying you net 90, net 365? What is the interest rate? What is in that? And it would take you thousands of people to read all that information. I think that a startup today, with today's technology, could just do that instantly and continuously. And if you are the Walmart using that over your competitor, the Kmart, you might become an industry dominator. So those are the kinds of things that we're most excited about.
Thank you for your explanation. And so you mentioned leveraging of data sets. Yeah. So I wanna, if you don't mind, I wanna give the word to Yelena, because as I know, her cool startup Style DNA does this job, and she is quite excellent at this work. So Yelena, can you explain what you do? And we wanted to ask for some advices of Andrew, like using this opportunity. Okay, and let's open this dialogue. Yes, so feel free, Elena, please, to ask your questions, to pitch a little bit, Style DNA, because as I see, there is a match in here. Yes, so Elena, please, you're more than welcome. Yeah. Elena,
Sorry.
unmuted.
Yeah, I was on mute. Yeah. Hi, Andrew. Great to meet you today. Maybe a few words about myself and Style DNA. I'm Elena, co-founder of Style DNA, and Style DNA is an AI platform that interacts with individuals like a professional human stylist. So we decode each client's fashion identity, help them to discover their personal style, then pair existing items into the ready-to-wear outfits, maximizing users' wardrobes. And we support our clients while shopping, provide advice if the item they're thinking to purchase truly complement their appearance and could be fitted in their wardrobe. So promoting more mindful, conscious shopping. And from your book, I know that fundraising is not only about the money, it's also about relations from the venture capitals who can help you to bring your startup to the next level. And hence we are cash positive. We decided to start our new round just to scale quickly and grow fast. And here I would like to get your advice. So actually, most of the VC are concerned that companies like OpenAI will dominate in every vertical, being disrupted AI. And my question is how and what is the best way to convince them that AI specialists who are serving the narrow complex of the task could capture significant market share.
Right. Well, I think that most VCs, I think I would disagree with the assertion that most VCs are afraid of investing in a startup that is going after a specific vertical industry niche that Sam Altman is going to destroy all of his customers and go after it directly himself. I think that that's not the case. I think most VCs recognize that someone like yourself is going to go after a specific thing that, rather than have a personal shopper that's very expensive, that does not scale well, that's going to help you. We actually invested in a company called TrueMaker many years ago that was kind of Uber for personal shopping. So they had thousands of 1099 contractors, much like Uber doesn't employ the taxi driver. And then these people would come to your office or come to your home, like measure you, to take your, custom made shirt and everything. And then they would give you advice on what to buy. And then the fashion consultant 1099, like Uber driver, would send you a box either once a week or twice a month or once a month with stuff, and then you try it on and you either keep it and you pay for it, or you send the box back with the clothing, wash, fashion, whatever mix of stuff that you didn't want. That company was eventually acquired, but it wasn't a real big success for us. The idea of you guys creating like an AI assistant, there's people have been talking about AI assistants since very long, but long before there was OpenAI or ChatGPT. And then there's all the way up to I've got my C3PO R2D2 droid, helping Luke Skywalker, right? Star Wars stuff. That I think the idea of a scalable true maker, which sounds a little bit, like what you're getting into there, does make sense. And you might be able to do it in an extremely profitable, scalable, low-cost way. You might even be able to consider different business models. Like when Skype came out, it was free. Skype is still free, but you can get yourself like a US phone number or a UK number and be living in Corsica or whatever. And you can Skype out like a calling card and they start generating revenue. But maybe what you're working on, you could be doing it for some extent just for free, and you're getting a referral or a commission when they end up buying stuff. So maybe you go with a kayak Travelocity, business model that, you're kind of like a travel agent, theoretically doesn't charge the end user traveler. They charge the airline, the hotel, the car rental company, um, but I think that is interesting. I don't know if, normally when I ask questions, it's a very confidential, closed door environment. This is more of an open, environment, so it's probably not suitable to get into the real specifics. But typically we see startups either bootstrap and build a business into revenue without any outside funding, or if you're like a semiconductor type business that's very capital intensive, it's impossible for most founders to fund the company into product launch and revenue. But I would say, there's sort of, especially in the Silicon Valley, in the US, and many other emerging tech ecosystems, you do have a funder, an investor at every stage. So there's investors that'll invest in a startup that's just an idea with no revenue. And then there's other guys that'll invest when they see like $5,000 of revenue a month. And there's others that want to see 100,000 of revenue a month, up to there's people that invest in pre-IPO SpaceX, whatever. That's a huge business already, and they're crossing over from the public markets. So, I think for you, it's a matter of how you're going to get up the mountain with your individual idiosyncratic business. But Alina, did you have a specific question? I'm kind of just ranting on about, along here. Is there a specific question, or you're just on your journey right now?
It was just a general question because I was starting to get feedback that, so,
My advice to you, Yelena, grab the opportunity, ask some specific question. Andrew,
or let me give you a short answer. You sort of, you kind of made a question or an assertion, and I said, I disagree with that. I do not think VCs should shy away from investing in your company because they believe Sam Altman is going to go after every single website business in the yellow pages himself with OpenAI. I think that is not the Sam Altman strategy at OpenAI. And I think that he wants to capture 50% of your monthly business spend. Like if you go through all the Y Combinator companies that presented in the last batch, almost all of them were AI companies, and almost all of them were spending 50% of their expenses today and their projected expenses on AI cloud compute. And so they would like to see you raise venture capital funding at OpenAI. They would like to be the hyperscaler LLM that you spend your money on. And they want to be capturing 50% of your venture capital, whatever retained earnings spend every month. In the past, it was usually payroll was everything. So humans were everything. Now we're seeing 50% humans, almost 50%, these guys. So they would be making a huge strategic disaster if they say, every time I hear one of my customers has a good idea, I'm going to kill her and do it myself.
Yeah, good, good. Elena, maybe you could share some numbers or some data or like anything specific about Style DNA. Yeah, so it even its name is DNA. Yeah, you have something special. So feel free to share it and to ask specific question.
Actually, it was the second question. Actually, we have huge traction in B2C space. We have 5 millions of the downloads. We have 4.5 millions of the annual revenue rate. And also, as I mentioned, we are cash positive. But it seems for me that it's also a very great opportunity to provide our technology on the retailer side and open them as SaaS white label to.
Wait, Elena, can I ask, so I think you said what are the key metrics are 5 million downloads, right?
Yeah.
And when did you begin the clock on those downloads? How long has this been happening for?
Actually, we launched at the end of the 2022, and up to today we have these numbers.
Okay, so in 24 months, that's great. And what is your business model to generate revenue? How do you generate revenue?
Yeah, right now we have hybrid business models that combine subscription, premium subscription for the AI stylists and our commission from the marketplace.
Okay, so people pay. Is there an option for free? Do you have like different levels of subscriptions?
Yeah, exactly. Some of our features are free and others premium.
Okay. And so is it's just A or B, it's free or premium, or do you have different levels?
We have some of them just free and others premium. For example, if you want to use chat with a stylist, you should subscribe. But if you want to get personal clothing recommendations or outfits with your own items, it's for free.
All right, cool. And how much is it to subscribe? Is that month to month, or is it annual, or do you give a discount if you pay 12 months? How does that work?
There are different levels of the subscriptions, depends on the platform, iOS, Android. So the main subscription is quarterly and annual.
And how much is that? What do you charge in US dollars?
Quarterly subscription is $19 and annual is 38.
Okay, so it's $19 for 1 month or $38 for the year?
Yeah.
Oh, for the quarter.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And how much revenue are you generating annually or monthly right now? If that's not too sensitive to talk about in this forum.
Yeah, proud of it.
Yeah, we will generate about 4.5 million.
So $4.5 million per year.
Yeah.
Okay. That's very impressive for someone who had zero revenue 24 months ago. That's quite spectacular, I would say. And how much funding have you raised from outside investors?
3.5 million.
Okay.
Tell about your plans, Elena. Yeah. So you said that you want to raise something. Yeah, you will say it more specifically, exactly, and for what goals? What are your goals for with which runway?
Actually, we are raising right now 4 million to scale our revenue up to 15 million next year.
Okay. And where are you based? Where is the company based right now?
Actually, we have holding company in London and operation company in Spain.
Okay, and are you based in Spain?
Actually, I'm here. I'm living here for the last 5 years.
Right,
And
right. Yeah.
so,
And geographically, it sounds like it's maybe all over the world, but what's the footprint of the, 5 million active users, or I don't know if they're all active?
right now we are mainly present in United States. It's about 30% of the revenue and of the active clients. Also, we are in Australia, Canada, United Kingdom, and the rest English-speaking Europe. So we are targeting females in the English-speaking countries.
Okay. And can I ask, the investors that invested the 3.5 million that you've raised to date, are they VCs? Are they corporates? Are they individuals? And what country are they from?
It's mostly friends and family capital.
Okay, you've got some wealthy friends and family. If you're able to get 4.5 million, that's pretty, or 3.5 million, that's pretty cool. Um, well, I would say that if you're in Spain, there are not a lot of VCs based in Spain. However, the ones that are in Spain often are not allowed to invest outside of Spain or Portugal, or they're quite fenced in. And if you've got a company that went from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour, or that fast, like you've done, they should be lucky to be able to invest in a good company that's profitable or on a path to profitability, and they can say, look, here's 4 million, we'll see where we are in a year, we'll fund it for 24 months and go for growth. And if they have to go profitable because there's no one else that's willing to invest in a Spanish domiciled startup, and the UK thing is just a holding company, it sounds like, you might say, that's our plan. Let's raise from local investors and go for it. And then there's a lot of investors outside of Spain that will invest in a Spanish company. Most VCs in the United States will not invest in a UK holding company with operations in Spain. So that's just the fact. But so you have an advantage and a disadvantage, working for you. That there's a whole bunch of people that are, saying, no, you're dead on arrival. And then there's other ones that are like, oh, finally, I'm forced to invest in Spanish companies. This one is great. And I want to be part of that. And so, I think that part of the job here is do a good job on making a target investor list, and, speak to Kazbek and everybody, and all those existing friends and family, and do your research of who's investing in, a tech startup like yours at your stage of revenue, and in this sector, geography, and stage. You're already too late for a lot of seed funds that invest across Europe, right? And you're kind of at a very specific stage. So the other thing is, I think that there's been a lot of VCs popping up in places like Paris, Berlin, Stockholm, but I used to live in London, and London is remains the venture capital of, all of Europe. And so I would spend a lot of time, researching VCs in London and seeing if they're interested, and quickly figure out who's the best target investor list to, do your round. You might even consider, especially since you're somewhat in the fashion industry, perhaps setting up some operations in Paris and qualify for, BPI France and some of these kind of government things and some of their funds. And they might even have relationships in the industry that could be useful for you. I mean, there's El Corte Inglés in Spain. I know the former managing director of El Corte Inglés Informatica in Spain was an angel investor in one of my startups, long before I became, a venture capitalist. In fact, I had angel investors from Spain. I think you could probably do pretty well in Spain if you play your cards right. Are you in Barcelona or
Yeah, exactly.
I figured, yeah. Barcelona, I always feel stupid saying that. Barcelona is really like, it seems like a great startup hub, and there's a lot of government support for it.
Yeah, sure, definitely. Thank you.
So maybe potentially, Yelena, you can come to US. I mean, not just come traveling and meeting people for business meetings, but maybe you can move in with all your business. It's potential is here because you are from fashion, okay, but you are AI company, and the capital of AI is San Francisco Bay Area. It's here, so why not? So, and what Andrew says, yes, build your VC list, yeah, your target list, and start working with that. So, and my advice is, so if you dare me, so it's rather American VCs. It's simply bigger and quicker, yeah, and more sophisticated, as I know. Yeah.
In my book, I have a little section. Do I need to move my startup to Silicon Valley or the United States? And we talk about the pros and the cons. I think you might build out your target investor list of who's ready to fund you now. And Israelis are famous for telling me that they live in Palo Alto, and I always say, "Oh, do you have any children? How old are they? All right, where do they go to school? Let's be honest. You don't live in Palo Alto. You live in Israel. You live in Tel Aviv. And so they've always been faking it. But it may be that you're better off in Barcelona, you're better off in Europe, and you're the high growth champion that even Germans will throw money at you, from Munich and Berlin. And they're allowed to do that, and they want to do that, and you're better there, growing your business there. But it may be that if it's not working and you measure this is just not working, that you should consider flipping to a Delaware C Corp. Forget that company's house holding company that you've got in the UK. It's doing nothing for you. And you flip to a Delaware C Corp, you move yourself and some key people, and you leave some operations all over the world, wherever you are, Spain or wherever they are, and you find that enough is enough. I came to the United States and did it. I mean, a very short anecdote is MySQL, the great open source, company that you'd hardly have database internet without them. They ran their business for like 10 years in Stockholm. Then the CEO moved with his wife and kids to Palo Alto, and in less than 12 months, Oracle acquired them in an all-cash deal for $1 billion. So it wasn't just, they were kind of going, they had $1 billion exit within 12 months.
Yeah, good point.
Yelena, we are sending you an invitation to US, yeah, for the next season. Come here, please, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Yeah, it's quite practical. Yeah, it's quite reasonable. Yeah, thank you. Do you have any other questions, Yelena?
Yeah, maybe the last one. So, Andrea, what do you thinking about if we make a pivot to the B2B side? So, like become B2C to B2B company. So, if it's could be additional point of value for the investor side or not?
Yeah, I think that short answer, yes. And I can clearly see that as where I would spend my energy if I were you, on something for everyone who's, listening to this or watching this. I think every startup goes through a soul searching, soul discovering question of, do I want to be B2B or do I want to be B2C? Now, some things are just born as enterprise SaaS, since there was never a consideration of a B2C. But I would say every sort of consumer facing company needs to ask itself, do I want to be B2B or B2C? And when the market is strong, going back almost like into ancient times of the 1990s, they would say, if I can raise that $60 million Series C that I need to build my brand, I'm going to build my brand. I'm going to be, all those brands that, LVMH owns. And that, my multiple of revenue, my profit margins when I own the brand is huge. if I'm just selling the picks and shovels, I'm not going to command that kind of profit margin and multiple of sales when I exit and sell or IPO. But for your business, it seems like you could just run a sales process and go to every single brand that is in a shopping mall and say, hey, El Corte Inglés here in Madrid and Barcelona, you should offer the El Corte Inglés shopping assistant that will, give you discounts, it'll give you advice, and that, and then it should be the same thing for the Gap, Old Navy, every single brand that running a store, Ralph Lauren, Polo, whatever, on Old Brompton Road in London, they should say, welcome to the Ralph Lauren store, Polo. And oh, by the way, how would you like to have a free shopping assistant that also gives you discounts and alerts you to sales and stuff like that? And if you're, a junkie hooked on Polo and you like to have that little horse, then, you should take the shopping assistant, right? A big thing that I've seen in shopping is that you spend a lot of money to get someone to come into your store. And then when they walk out of the store, you're like, I want to put a rope on them and keep them connected to my store to come back to my store or hit me online or come on mobile. You could position your, your AI shopping assistant to be a hook that when they come in the store, they just tattoo that person on the face with your thing, get on their mobile, and continue to have this ongoing relationship with them, to work with them. And you might argue to each store, if you try to be Apple Computer, Steve Jobs of walled garden, I control it, and I'm going to do it myself, it'll fail because the average consumer doesn't want to shop Ralph Lauren only. They have other interests, and the AI assistant should be showing them more than what is in one single store, So you might say to like the Gap, for example, Old Navy, you enable someone with the download onto their phone, and I'll pay you 10% of what they spend outside of your walled garden. So it's kind of like Amazon started off selling their own crap, and then they sell crap on Amazon.com.es, whatever. But they then said, all right, what the hell? I'll advertise stuff for you to buy at Walmart. And so now if people are buying stuff on Walmart, Jeff Bezos is becoming the richest man in the world before Elon. So that's maybe what you do. Maybe a B2B to C could be a really strong pitch, and you've got the solo pitch for them, and then you show them, be like Bezos, and if you disagree, well, you're not as rich as he is. You want to get paid when people buy in the Polo Ralph Lauren, even though we enabled the download from Old Navy, whatever, the Gap. Just an idea.
Brilliant ideas, thank you.
Yeah, so thank you so much. Excellent talk, excellent speech, excellent advices. Thank you so much, Andrew. Thank you so much, Helena, being with us. So time is like running so quick. It's almost 1 hour. And Andrew, thank you so much for opening ceremony. So I'm so happy to say that being practical and sharing some knowledge is the main point for us. Yeah? And Andrew, like your experience and your advices are invaluable. Yeah, so it's very, very important for all of us. And we are happy. Yes.
Well, thanks for having me, and I hope there's lots of cool startups as successful as Elena, turning $3.5 million of funding into 4 million of revenue in 24 months. That's sensational. That's great. And if there's any large corporations that want to figure out how to be the winner and the beneficiary and not the victim and loser with all these startups disrupting everything, technology affects everything now. Every business is a tech business. So even if you don't think you sell, your revenue is not coming from products and services related to technology, you have expenses, you have employees, and that makes you a technology company. So we encourage people to reach out directly to, Kazbek and myself, and, see how we can partner with you to put you in that winning side of change, not the victim loser side.
Yeah, so thank you so much. And Andrew, do you dare us to introduce your other startups and Elena's contacts? Can she contact you somehow?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, feel free to put my email into the show notes or whatever. My email address is andrew@7bc.vc. So andrew@7bc.vc. Happy to hear from anybody that knows Kazbek.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Andrew. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Helena. Yeah. We'll keep working with our Metaverse Fashion Week, and thank you so much for this excellent opening ceremony, Andrew. Yeah.